Welcome to video 16, Sidutru continued, talking about symbols. The question is what about ceremonial headdress? Well, that tends to be culturally specific, more tribal-based. So it's not necessary if that's not part of the culture or cultural expression that you know of. However, it's not something you just put on your head because it looks interesting and gives you a nifty other significance. The color that's used has meaning in a specific tribe. It might be, for example, red represents the blood of the people. And, in that case, you being a warlock or witch wearing a red cap, not, the little Shriner looking thing, but, one that almost looks more like one of the Shinto ones, or those Taramami ones, something along those shapes and lines. Or, it doesn't have to be that big or whatever, but it's something that's made by your people, your community, again, and would be something that would be given to you. It's not something you have made for yourself, or make for yourself, because these are symbols of achievement, and they are literally the same concept of badges of honor. And so they have profound significance and meaning. And simply appropriating and just taking it as in some kind of eclectic, make it my own thing. It's selfish, it's demeaning, it's disrespectful, and it's inconsistent with legitimate cultural foundations. As to what symbols are used on it, it really depends on the symbolism that's being used to express in the decoration that goes into it. And it has nothing to do with like the Pope tiara or anything like that, but it has a similar significance to the people and culture in question. I find it just as important as anybody else with their own view on things. Is it necessary? To be a warlock or witch, these are achievement symbols, but if you are already aware of your achievement, you really don't need to wear it all around and use it as some kind of bragging right. Otherwise, you are demeaning the value of it. Would I be very deeply touched, profoundly, if people made these sort of things for me as a gift? You bet I would, and I would wear them with pride, because it means that I have become very meaningful to the people, all people that recognize it, and what I'm teaching them is truthful, and that I'm not misleading them or painting a false fantasy, and which would only encourage me more to guide people the right way and not, put false band-aids or fictional surface things on that. But let's look at the fact that the Bronze Age ceremonial gold caps. Those are made with specific solar, lunar, and stellar symbolism, and they are literally calendars that were worn on the head, and they had wands which have been found to date back to about at least 33,000 years. Some of them are a little bit older, and they would basically be like like a thing like that, maybe. So they would take the hat and they'd sit there in front of them, and they would and then maybe use like Stonehenge or something like that, and they would look at it like that through the hole, and then literally line up on the calendar to kind of figure out which. Okay, we got the shadow here, this lines up there, so it's about this time here. Okay, which means we're about here. So that means that the weather's going to start changing pretty rapidly. Let's go let everybody know. And they would tell people, from the reading of, and they would tell people what they suspect. They wouldn't make any false promises either, unless they had other indicators of the environment. They would also watch animal behavior in syncrecy with these measurements on the calendars, because watching animal behavior is actually what inspired people to realize their reactions with the position of the stars, the sun and the moon, and realizing, oh, guess what? The animals are reacting at this particular time. Okay, the animals are going to be part of our calendar system, so let's include the animals that are related to this month. That's the ones that come out here at this time. So that's going to be that part of the zodiac. And that's how the things got put together. And it was a very slow process of over thousands of years. And as each culture had contact with each other that had their own version, they would exchange information, and those that would listen, and not just, well, this is what's been done for thousands of years, No, it was like, okay, so that's new information, and, oh, I see exactly what you're absolutely right. Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that one. Cool, let's share the details, and let's get this thing put together. All right, thanks. See you next season. We'll see you again. Cooperation meant the survival of everyone, something that people have forgotten today. But again, it's not that difficult to figure out when you actually understand the legitimate foundations, the legitimate roots. And you can pretty much leave out all the extra exaggerations and irrelevant or false definitions just because it happens to be what the general public think. You're reinforcing this information, putting it that way. You have to say it a certain way, regardless if people want to accept that particular terminology for their own bigotry or point-blank ignorance. Being ignorant isn't a bad thing, because if you are corrected and shown something where you're ignorant, and you accept that you were ignorant in that subject matter, and you embrace it, then you're no longer ignorant in that subject matter. But if you deny it even after it's been shown to you, then that's called being willfully ignorant. And that's when the problems really start, for you and everyone else. But, try it sometime. Try this kind of thing, making challenges just by looking at the same fucking sky. You don't need some space people, midgets, telling you how it works, or that supposedly some bald reptilian platypus locust gecko guy taught you how to draw on walls in caves. Kids do that all the time. It doesn't mean that, other people didn't figure out, you can figure out and paint on walls. It's ridiculous that some people go to such lengths to make things confusing and unnecessarily so, just for some kind of stupid agenda. Oh, as far as the so-called cosmic egg symbol, the kind of ovular shape, again, it's related to something else. It's related to the shape of the cross. And that's another thing that's constantly misrepresented, because the 1800s occultism created by Eliphas Levi based on Gnosticism, which is more like Gnosticism if you really read and learn what that nonsense is all about, and you'll start seeing it in so many things. They have to just reject it, just because of the sheer bullshit behind it. But anyway, the shape of the cosmic egg is based on an observation of looking at the sky and using a little pole and stuff like that, so you won't be blinded when you're looking at the sun. You can kind of get an idea. And you can figure out that, at a certain time of the year, the sun seems to be smaller, so it must be moving further away. And at this point here during summertime, it is like right there and big, But then at these times, a little up over this way, they're pretty much about the same thing in these two different seasons. So the cross in its shape, with a smaller top than the crossbars, would right there, the smaller top represented summer solstice, fall moon. And the crossbars represented the spring and the autumn equinox, and then the longest point away represented winter. So if it's upright, it's basically representing the summer season, which is actually the signal for the coming of the death season. So it's actually a death symbol. And the inverted cross is actually represents the domination of the winter season, which is the promise of new life. So you see, a lot of people have actually got the meaning in reverse. But if you were to draw a line around the shape of the cross, you would actually end up with an elliptical egg shape. And that is the cosmic egg of the cosmic cross. And it's just, a factor of movement around the planets. Otherwise, you could pull it back and then make an equal arm cross to represent the equinoxes. So, I hope that dispels the myth that, upright is good, inverted is bad, and that tends to be the problem with a lot of different things there. So, that's another example of simple symbols drawn from natural observations and rather easy to figure out, and why certain structures are oriented the way they are, because it wasn't just calendars, they were places to meet up with people, so they had multiple purposes. Temple, calendar, computer, geometry, all that stuff started from just paying attention to the sky and seeing how things interacted and watching the impact on the environment and seeing how the creatures in the environment far closer to it were tied to these things. And that's what it meant when warlocks and witches knew the speech of animals. We knew the speech based on their behavior, and it's through their behavior that they communicated what they had as a message of the changing of the seasons and environmental changes. And if a bunch of animals start getting out of Dodge, that means some shit's going to happen, and you should probably go with them and not be idiots stick around and end up with an avalanche or an earthquake or some shit. People listen to the animals' behavior. That's what the job of warlocks and witches in their watching these aspects also includes. Watching creatures and knowing what they're saying. In fact, that's where the legitimate totemic representation in that respect comes from. And the other comes from their associated traits with their hunting and their specific everyday behavior within the scheme of things. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of animal totems often share similar meanings, because they behave similar ways. This doesn't mean people didn't recognize that every creature also had its own individual personality. Talisman Skulls, on to the next video.